Wow, that took a long time. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. I don't know why that took so long then. Maybe as Nicola was here talking to us, but now he's
I just noticed something. Ian's the only one that can afford a real camera. Look at the difference between Ian and the rest of us. We're all pale and washed out, and he's vibrant colour with dulcet tones from his fancy microphone. Gee.
Yeah, it's the microphone that gives the colour, Bruce. That's what it is. It emanates.
I just say I am pale and washed out though.
yeah. Gary's at natural colour.
Yeah. Go on, Mark. You were going to add something then.
Well, you can tell which one of us is doing all right. Someone has bought themselves a nice microphone.
I have. Yeah, it's right. The Ferrari had to go on standby for the cost of the microphone. Yeah, you can't afford the Ferrari anymore, so I had to. Yes, I bought some equipment. Go away.
Actually, it sounds pretty good as well. Actually, to be fair, does sound good.
Yeah, it's getting there. I've still got a lot of work to do because I haven't been bothered to move it around yet or do anything like that. But
and then there's the voice training lessons and that to go with it.
There's no training this. If you saw the amount it takes me to do a video, you'd learn that there's no elocution lessons coming here. Yeah.
YouTube, some good ones on YouTube for you.
Yeah, I decided, as I said, the fact that the drone industry hasn't released any products for like 2 years, that's been very interesting. And other than ones you can't actually buy, there's one or two interesting ones, but you can't get them, especially in Europe. We can't get the Skydio 2. We can't get. I don't even know if you can get the Evo 2. Not that I would buy one, but. Yeah, so I decided to spend some money elsewhere, but that might change this week if rumours suggest incorrect.
He's just plainly got money to burn then, doesn't he? I just need to spend money. I don't care what it is. I'm just going to spend money. I'm just going to buy stuff.
I spent nothing for 2 years, so very little for 2 years.
Ian's a true professional. I'm a professional, just like your mother was. But anyway.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, Jethro. You've got to love Jethro. It's we have been inundated this week with made in America posts and people trying to convince me that because it's made in America, it must be the bestest, even though that whatever it is in no way near the blue SUAS specifications, nor is it a blue SUS. I think it's finally beginning to dawn that those, and I knew her as well, that those are the five types they've got. Those are the ones.
Final five. If we're going down the road of Battlestar Galactica, it's the final five.
Oh no!
Are you thinking of something else? Are you?
No, when you said the final five, I thought you were going for like Britain's Got Talent. Or
No.
There's
an obscure Battlestar Galactica reference in there for the guys who watched that.
Yes,
but yeah, there's been a lot of news, a lot of it, isn't there? And you're starting to look at this and go, ignore the DJI aspect a minute, but when is the penny going to drop for these companies that all this VP money now, VC money, is literally going nowhere because you could build the best aircraft in the world right now, but you're not on the list, you're not coming in. And that is the situation today, isn't it?
It is. And there's remote. I think, Bruce, you dropped some, was it remote ID shenanigans or some shenanigans from Australia anyway, earlier into our inbox? There's some more, I don't know what I would have done with it, that would suggest that a major manufacturer with 3 letters in their name have also are getting ready to stand up their version of a remote ID standard. And it's very bubbling under. It's there. It's coming one way or another. I'm not quite sure how it's.
And in the meantime, manned aircraft keep falling like rain from the skies after mid-air collisions because reasons.
Yeah, but no one's flying. How is this happening? The airline industry is close to non-existent today, yet there seems to be an accident every 10 seconds.
You exaggerate.
Well,
I've told you a million times, don't exaggerate. Yeah, but it's the GA community mainly, and the small operators, not the airlines. And it's just like, seriously, someone needs to give these regulators and a whack upside the head with a clue stick, because the levels of mid-airs are unprecedented. It's just been, considering the reduced amount of air traffic, what is going on? I mean, they're too busy focused on these evil drones to realise they're killing each other at great rates.
What's Sean trying to? What are you trying to get us to get, Sean?
What's he peddling?
Why don't put that? What are you doing, Squishy? What are you doing? I can't break that link out. How can I break that link out? I wonder what he's trying to sell us. Squishy. I hope you're all right, mate. I hope things are going well there for you. Yeah, no, there's lots of weirdness going on, and I can't help think that in America a few things are going to happen under the cover of the elections. That's just going to rush a few things through.
Well, it's interesting because it's all hidden back. We haven't had any of that regulation come through at all. There's been one or two hints, but that was it, wasn't it? You know.
Yeah, and then meanwhile, Mark shows us a very simple way of doing a remote ID. Well, not remote ID, electronic conspicuity. You have to be careful what I say there. But of course that won't pass muster because
well, if
you could spoof that. It's not like ADSB, you know. You could spoof that.
Well, interestingly, you know, RCAA, DFT have said 250 quid they'll pay towards a piece of kit. They listed all the kit, like 5 manufacturers, and you just go, well, hang on a minute, you want us to pay X amount and you're going to pay for it, that's great. Why don't you just buy a shed load of these, right? Nice and simple, you know, not even £30 each, I should think, by the time they get here. Set these up for everyone, post them out.
You don't understand how the game works. You don't know. What happens is they will say, we'll put 250 quid towards these devices, but they have to be certified. And their mates will come along. They make the device for 25 quid, get certified, and they pocket, 175 quid because they're able to sell it for the 250 or 200 and get the whole money. It's looking after your friends.
And all those systems they said, can you buy? They all have subscription as well. So they lock you into like a yearly sub as well. So not only you're going to spend 250 quid to buy it, which you're going to get some of that back, you're then going to pay £20 a year or whatever a month, and you've got a sub. Just get your finger out and just do this one. You know, this is the way forward. To be honest, it's not any other way. I mean, if you want to fly BV loss, if we all had electronic conspicuity, it should then make it dead easy to be able to launch your aircraft, because you can see everyone else in the sky, they can see you, and you should just be able to go out and fly. And the distance shouldn't matter. As long as your aircraft can do that distance, you should be fine.
But hang on a minute. Electronic conspicuity is not going to work. It doesn't work with manned aircraft. Why would it work if you've got a drone? The people in manned aircraft aren't even listening out for other manned aircraft with their electronic conspicuity. So what odds do you have that they're going to see your BV loss or hear your BV loss drone coming and not hit it?
Well, the idea is you see them, because obviously they're not paying attention, because obviously no manned aircraft or microlights ever hit itself in the air before. So obviously, you know, of being responsible drone pilots as we are, and having caused maybe 3 instances worldwide, maybe, you know,
paint scuffs.
We can see them, because if everyone's got a beacon on them, electronic conspicuousy, and see each other, we'll see them. It's at the same high time at right. I either need to go down or turn away, and I can see it coming. It should all.
So the
work.
first thing is, all manned aircraft must have electronic conspicuity. They don't yet. So let's get that step in place before we start dealing with drones and whatever they're supposed to do.
I have to agree. They have to go first. And interestingly, our general aviation have gone, no, because it's so you can spy on us. This is why it was rejected ages ago. And they kicked off the biggest stink going. They were like, no, because you want to spy on us. You want to see what we're doing. You know, it's a breach of privacy, all this, that, and the other. General aviation went absolutely like no chance on this. And I can see us being the pushover going, yeah, we'll do that because we're suckers.
We just cite that as a precedent for not having the pilot's position included in the remote ID or electronic conspicuity as they want us to do. So look, it's good enough for GA not to have these privacy concerns and have them accepted by the regulator. It's good enough for us.
Of the document I've seen, the pilot's position is to be transmitted by a Wi-Fi device only, and the aircraft position is using another frequency. So it's a dual
ID, isn't it? Sorry,
remote ID. Yeah. Not electronic. So that's a positioning thing. And interestingly, a balloon flight in the UK, for many reasons across many things I follow and people I know, it's just caused a bit of a storm. Every October in the UK, there's who can fly the furthest within the UK competition. And anyway, it's going on right now. And a balloon came across from Spain to have a go. And it does carry ADS-B. And in the piloting forums, there's a bloke going spare, and the bloke had ADS-B on his aircraft. So, and he's moaning that the balloon popped up in front of him. Now, a balloon, even a small 4-person one, is quite a big thing. They do not just pop up, and you would see it from miles away. So, A, he should have seen it with his eyes.
Well,
Go on, mate.
Well, can't they see tiny little drones from miles away, so they couldn't see a huge balloon?
Yeah. I had forgotten that. You're absolutely right. Yes, you're absolutely right. But it had the full ADS-B. It was ADS-B out, and the guy had ADS-B in out and in his aircraft. So he didn't pay any attention to any alerts that was given him. He wasn't looking out. So and then he's all over the forum saying, "Oh, how come this bloody balloon just climbed up out of my blind spot?" No, it didn't suddenly magically arrive there.
Why didn't he have an observer in the passenger seat? If it's that critical, he needs to. All manned aircraft must have observers in the passenger seat so that the situational awareness is raised to a level equivalent, at least to a drone without an observer.
But I thought they could spot a mini quad at 10 mile. Therefore, therefore, a balloon shouldn't be an issue, should it?
Shouldn't be an issue
at all. Look at that. You can tell he's got a weak argument. He's bringing facts into it.
Yeah. But it's just, but both aircraft were ADS-B equipped, and the bloke still thinks it popped up in front of him. So
exactly, and if they're going to put this electronic conspicuity in drones, it means yet another piece of tech that has to go into manned aircraft, yet another piece of distraction for the pilot who's already got a heavy workload. Do you really think that's going to improve safety if manned aviation has to be looking at their drone detector and their ADS-B and all the other stuff they got in the cockpit? It's going to actually reduce their situational awareness by causing too much distraction.
And did you see that the guy from Sky Demon down in Gillingham or wherever they're from in the Dorset border got an OBE for his work with his in-cockpit display? And they are getting quite clever with reducing traffic and only serving up the traffic that is a threat to the pilot. So there are sort of some islands of sense and sensibility as regards this. But yeah, as you've said, generally GA just goes headless chicken about it. And if you there's because I do like to post that no GA below 2K in many places, and people, their head of Embraer unmanned aircraft or advanced air mobility got a bit angry with me on LinkedIn. Love it. People, really powerful people get angry with you. He got angry with me about that because he posted that he was flying his R44 across at low level and whatever. And I said, "You don't be doing that. You want to get up, get out of the way. Go on, get up. Don't be down there." He didn't like that, and he didn't think it was practical. And then as soon as you suggest, well, and he says, "Well, what if the weather's bad?" I said, "That's fantastic. We'll ground you, you general aviation type, so you don't have a CFIT incident into the, we're saving your life, mate. You're not going to fly up that canyon in the fog. We'll just save the day. We'll ground you."
Does he drive his Hummer on the footpath?
Yes, that's a good analogy. So there's got to be a sea change in attitude.
The other thing too is that this is going to, if they're going to have this in aircraft, it has to be a certified piece of equipment. It's going to be very expensive to add this to aircraft, and if it's not added to all aircraft, it serves no value in terms of anti-collision things. So who's going to pay for all the manned aviation flyers to fit this to their aircraft. It's going to be like ADS, but it's going to be thousands of dollars to fit it to an aircraft, being certified and everything. Where's that money coming from? I certainly hope it's not expected to come from the drone community.
I have a feeling, certainly in the UK, I have a feeling they're going to push for, unless you're suitably equipped, you can fly in this area, but again, you've got to be above 2,500 feet, something like that. So instead of having sort of an upper limit for controlled airspace, there's be a lower. You can't go below that as well. So you show up on primary radar and all those other good things.
What about the military?
Oh well, that's a different use case, and they're thundering around in bits of the country that most people don't use because they're away from. Because let's face it, most commercial operations happen in built-up areas. They don't happen in on the moors. The odd job, and then you mitigate that by reading the NOTAMs, speaking to your local.
But hobbyists are expected to operate in low-risk areas, which ideally those moors and things is the best place to fly if you're a hobby flyer. And they don't read NOTAMs because they're just not part of the aviation community. So what happens there?
Well, I think we had to have a little bit of a change in thinking on behalf of even the aero modelists. If you're a recognised glider site or recognised model flying field, then the jets will stay out of the way. And if not, then you should be a little bit cognizant. But then, has it ever happened? It's never happened, has it? That a jet has
it's
hit
only a matter of time. Says my friend at the Airline Pilots Association.
I walked into that, didn't I? I walked into that evening, Steve. And as Michael says, simple, remove the pilot from manned aviation. We were, actually, a friend and I were having a chat today. We were watching a crop duster on our ADS-B receiver chain, which is unusual, as we've actually seen one down here that's got ADS-B because normally they haven't. And we were just looking at the area we was doing and thinking, oh, that'd be much easier than using Believers or whatever drone you like. And then, it's cost, and it was just, why don't we just make a really, really big model plane that can fly for that sort of time and do that sort of job? And so Michael's right, simple, remove the pilot from manned aviation would be much, much, much better idea. Much, much better idea. So what else have we seen on this week as we've just changed the rant around a bit?
I've spent part of the week and late last week, this week, just testing different airframes with Ben at Tetra Drones. We've just been testing VTOLs, having a giggle. Been a bit of a blast, really, to be honest. That's mainly what I've been up to this week. I've seen some cool stuff I can't talk about, sadly. But yeah, it's just been a week of testing obscene stuff and doing completely bonkers stuff safely. So
is that big? Is it the Titan, that VTOL thing you've been?
Yeah, so we took my old Air Titan. It's a few years old, and it was sat in Ben's workshop for one reason or another. And he goes, I just want to test out some firmware before he puts it in the Mugen. So he's got the big 3 meter VTOL. He says, I just want to make sure I'm getting everything right and everything. And he wanted a big frame. He says, can I says, yeah, hack it to bits, do whatever you want with it. I don't fly it. And it is like, I think it's coming in at about 7 to 7.5 at the minute. And unbelievably, in 17 mile an hour headwind, it takes off and it just sits there. Even in the hover, it's just so stable, even though, the Nimbus isn't quite as stable, and some of the other VTOLs I've seen, not quite as stable. But this thing, its weight and everything, it's fantastic. It really is. Although we did get one landing slightly wrong. We left it in plane mode to land. That was hilarious.
Yeah,
it flies a treat.
Yeah, the only one I've been around is the Baby Shark. Is the only fairly big thing. I can't remember what size that is.
2.5 into
something like that, and they just. I find it all rather worrying. Big propellers and lots of money and weird transitions. Hopefully, Tridge is going to get that transition code sorted out. Oh, Louis not here. He must still be in Brazil somewhere doing his thing. Kidnapped.
It is really weird with the bigger machines. I mean, although I'm with Ben and we both know drones, I'm always the one that's going, right, we all step back now, you know, and he knows his stuff as well. But I'm always so conscious of these big machines. As soon as you get, I think, above, once you enter above 2 meters, you are getting into the bigger stuff. You know, okay, it's a VTOL, but it's weighing 7 kilos. It's nothing to where it's going to go with the Mugen. You know, the Mugen will easily be double the weight. I think we're going. I think at the minute, estimated on the nose at 20 kilos. You know, we've got a nice big field, middle of nowhere now. So, you know, if anything does go awry, we know we're just going to have to do a bit of walking and pick up the bits. But you know, people have to accept that kind of fate when you're testing stuff and you're building stuff. You know, people go, oh well, you know, this something. No. You've got to understand. There's the chance this is going to go sideways, and at that point there, you just know that you're just going to have to do the walk and pick up the bits.
Well, if you don't carry a bin bag, then you're a fool. you've got to have a bin bag. If you don't take a bin bag with you, you know,
the amount of times I wish I've had a bin bag from model flying. Oh my!
You're plainly a fool. It's always carrying a bin bag. It's just you just have to. Yeah, I know. It's not good for the pulse test flights. This Phil. I like test flying. It's interesting to wonder quite what may go wrong, but of course, good preparation, planning, and prior. That's the thing. You never want me to write 7p in your logbook if you ever come flying with me, because that's planning and prior preparation prevent piss poor performance. And that's what I put in people's logbook: 7p, not 7 up, 7p if it's been really bad, because you know if you plan to fail, fail to plan, you plan to fail, and all those other good, right things that you tut and nod and sagely say. But yeah, no, flights start with the planning, they don't start with the flight.
Yeah. I mean, I always, as soon as you go out for a test flight, you're going to do stuff, it's like, right, if it goes completely tits up, this is where I want to go. This is where I want it to go.
This is where the crash will be, yes.
Yeah, that's where I want the crash to be. However, I've learnt that where you're going to actually crash is a completely different place. Yeah.
There's nothing of a plan, though, isn't it? It makes you feel better. It kind of does. And I don't think people always appreciate the difference between a VTOL or a fixed wing versus a multi-rotor. If a multi-rotor goes wrong, and I've seen a few of them, they're nasty spinning blades of death, those things at times. You know, the bigger they are, respect the damn thing. I certainly look at these ones that have been designed to carry people and everything, and I'm going, I don't want to be near those blades.
That motorcycle was good, wasn't it? It was in Dubai, that hover bike. That was brilliant.
That was good, wasn't it? I see there's a couple more of those about.
If you imagine if that had hit him, imagine if one of those blades had hit him. He was lucky. If one of those blades had caught him, it would decapitate, I swear. You know, there was that poor lad in America got hit by a model helicopter, wasn't there? A long time ago, sadly. But, you know, you imagine what that ride-on machine's going to do. If it ever goes wrong and goes into a crowd of people, you just...
What was that forecast? Did we all see the forecast this week? What was it? 460,000 of them in the sky by 2040 or something like that. Man,
was it Ernst Young? Was that an Ernst Young forecast?
Something like that. It was one of them. It was one of them. It's just like, what? You know?
Ernst Young was saying, what, $20 billion by 2020 or something, the drone industry at one stage. They're wildly inaccurate predictions.
What amazes me is everyone gets these wild predictions. Right, so drones are going to change the agricultural industry, okay? This is what we were all told for a long time. Okay, drones are going to change the agricultural industry. So I did a lot of flying for a company here. I won't name them. But they did a lot of flying. For 2 years, I did a lot of work with them. And then this year, I don't think they've hardly done anything other than test sites, and they switched everything over to satellite. Because the satellite can do the job cheaper and quicker. And people don't always get that. I did a job for another company a few years ago, and that was doing volumetric measurements. And they just went, well, we have the satellite that does this. And I said, well, here's what I can do. versus satellite, then they go, well, the satellite's cheaper, so we're just going to use that. And you just go, well, you can't win half. It's like, well, I can't beat that. I can't beat that price.
Yeah, someone asking, is anyone a quad running articopter will still fly if one motor speed controller fails? There are ways of doing that, but you just need the expensive speed controllers and motors. It really is. It's a function of which sort fails.
Don't they have the spinny roundy thing like the DJI do, where it spins around and therefore balances the lift?
That was on the table for a little while, but there was a good reason why you couldn't do that. I think there was a patent from the university that did it, and I'm sure DJI have bought it or whatever.
Basically, if you're down to 3 motors and it can't behave like a tricopter, you're in trouble.
I know you can do it with the fancy, with some fancy speed controllers, but
I think it's basically hexes are about as low as you can go and do that. I think because quads are just still too unbalanced to manage. They flip in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
So I hear.
Yeah, apparently so. Yeah, it's I'm not sure. I'm still not sure these multi-rotor things are going to catch on. In fact, I think they are a little bit on the decline. Finally, not in the home consumption, but for commercial operation,
which will make it interesting. Ian covered this, the Fat Shark Red Cat buyout thing. Make it interesting whether there's consolidation in the market or the market is shrinking so much that the players realise there's just not enough room for everybody. We better all join hands and hold the market as one.
Get
that campfire going.
It is interesting in it because I think, everyone talks about how amazing, how big it is. It's still a minuscule market. How many sets of goggles do we honestly think Fat Shark have sold in total? I wouldn't think it's that many, in the grand scheme of things. And, if you look at the figures involved, and I think I still don't get the deal. I still don't understand what Rotor Riot and Red Cat, ignore Red Cat, it's Rotor Riot that's pushed this. Red Cat are not going to have gone after Fat Shark in themselves. It's obviously part of the whole Rotor Riot thing, but
it's to make all the companies concerned look bigger than, richer than they are. That's basically what it is. They'll go out for another tranche of funding and say, look, we've just acquired this, the leading goggle manufacturer in the world, so we're going out for funding so that we can increase the R&D. It's typical. It's what you do when you're trying to build up an investment and there's no money.
There's no IP here. We've got all the goggles.
Except the off-on switch. Fat Shark did invent the off-on switch for goggles. Don't forget that.
That's why DJ couldn't have one on theirs, yeah.
Really? Tell me about that. Is that true? What?
No. But it's
no. This industry.
Hey, I've got a bridge for sale here, Gary. Would you like to buy it?
Really?
But no, it's one of those situations where it's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing and where this will go. Fat Shark are continuing with the develop of Frostbite. I know Bruce is getting his hands on one. There's been some kickback in the last few days on the forums of how much existing users who bought the original gear are going to have to pay to get the version 2. It's $250 to get upgrade. And to be fair, I think it's okay. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but I think it's all right. And Greg has come out and said he's selling that at a loss, but you're now beginning to get that nasty feeling that you get with people who bought the version 1, which was a beta product, but they ignore all of that. They looked away from that, and then Fat Shark said, don't worry, we'll look after you. And that looking after is going to cost you $250. And now they're suddenly unhappy about that. And question marks are then being raised of how much is the new gear going to cost? Is it going to be $350, $400 without a set of goggles? It's going to be about $1,000 system, I reckon. All in, by the time it lands, it's going to be about $1,000.
I don't think people can complain. If you're buying a beta system and there's no promise of moving you free of charge or even at low cost to the final system, I think you bought it in the full and total understanding that you were getting something to play with, not something that you may be able to use.
Yeah, I think the 250. I saw the price, and I didn't think that was unrealistic. The tooling cost alone is huge on this stuff, but it still begs the question of, even if they sold it to 50% of everyone flying FPV, Is that a big enough business model to make money? And I still don't think that is. And that's where the problem is. For DJI,
I think what they're doing, though, is they're relying on the fact that if they sell this digital system, they'll sell goggles as well. But if DJI owns the market, they're not going to sell any more goggles because DJI will own both markets.
Yeah. And what DJI can do is what they've done before. They can sit there and drop the price by a third tomorrow. Because at the end of the day, this is a pet project on the side. And I'm not saying they're not taking it seriously, but it's the same situation with the Osmo Action. These are products around their main product development. They're not building markets in themselves. And don't get me wrong, I think DJI clearly want to be a part of the action camera market. And they want to be a part of the FPV market. But they can afford to just go, yeah, we'll take a third off tomorrow. We'll just do that and subsidize it off another product line, and that's where the others won't be able to cope.
And that raises that interesting thing: is DJI going to release a racing drone or a freestyle drone? It's going to be interesting for them because the market they're in now, you can go and buy yourself a Mavic or a Phantom or whatever, and you take it out of the box and you just push the stick up and it takes off. It just sits there. It's easy. You don't fly it. You move it around. If they release a freestyle drone, they're going to have a whole new set of customers coming along who. It won't do that. It'll be, you've got to fly it. It's as soon as you click it into sport mode or whatever, it'll be a crumpled heap on the ground for most people. So how they're going to handle that is going to be completely different. The people coming back saying, I bought you a drone and it crashed. What do I do?
Well, they've set the stall for this already. See, they've got their key, which they started 2 or 3 years ago, which you buy for a fair price. And as long as you bring the aircraft back, the only conditions a key refresh is, it doesn't matter what condition it's in, but you've got to bring it back. They'll replace it. I think they'll release something that marketing will say it's a racing drone, yet to us, we will look at it and go, it's got stabilizers on and it's going to keep people in a nice little walled garden somewhat.
Yeah.
I think, it, don't get me wrong, it'll be marketed as chasing people through trees and the footage will be from a GoPro strapped on top of something with FPV, yet I think the product will be heavily limited. People have already started saying, but what battery is it going to take? It'll have a proprietary battery. It will have it will have a proprietary battery. It will probably have proprietary props. That's the reality of it. DJI is about building ecosystems. It's not about allowing you to use their gear with other products. That's not what it will be about. If they really, there's been a lot of noise this week about the next Mavic, and clearly a lot of the websites are desperate for news because they're making it up right now. And there's been a lot of noise. If they released another Mavic tomorrow, I would say probably, I wouldn't know a figure, but would 10% of Mavic 2 owners even consider buying it? No, I don't think they would, because the money isn't there and we can't get out and we can't do the stuff we wanted to do. Yet if they release something that we haven't got, that we haven't seen, all of these drone flyers haven't had this product before, will they be interested? Well, yes, because that's what Skydio did. Skydio sold a product, not because it had a great camera. The camera it's mediocre at best. It's okay, but it's nothing special. What sold Skydio was the fact you could fly it through trees, it would fly around objects, and it would do it for you. So it's having that difference, and I think that's where this quad will. It makes total sense to sell that right now. It doesn't make any sense to sell a camera drone.
I wonder if we're going to get the Mavic Freestyle, which would be the if you've got a Mavic, you need to upgrade to the Freestyle, so you can do leaps and flips and all that sort of stuff. And then they've got all the molds, because they could basically make it into a freestyle quad with change of brains and perhaps toughen it up in a few areas. And that would be probably a good sell. It'd be a crossover craft that would get people who got tired of just positioning a camera in the air to actually flying something, but it'd have the fallback modes to the standard Mavic, GPS holds. That'd be a sensible move for them.
DJI never let the reins off too heavily. You've only got to look at the RoboMaster. You've only got to look at all of this stuff. And, as much as they get into a market new, the FPV, they've really let the reins off that more than most people thought they would. Everyone was sitting there going, they'll never allow this. Let's not pretend. These hacks are not, they're sanctioned. These are intentional loopholes in the software that could be closed at a moment's notice, yet they've been there for 7 versions. So you can't tell me they didn't put them there. So, it's when it suits them, they will. When it doesn't, they won't. So I think we'll see all the rumors are a Mavic Mini 2. I think that's a Christmas refresh, stocking filler.
Well, it's just on sale now. The Mavic Mini on the Prime Day is $100 off at the moment. So obviously, perhaps they're trying to clear stock. Who knows?
But there'll be nothing big this year. Tomorrow is something. What's the date today? Yes, tomorrow is something. Thursday is something.
That's the camera, isn't it?
I don't know. I honestly, I know what's coming Thursday, but I don't know what's coming tomorrow. I know what's coming, but I don't know about next week. But I've also been told watch this space for next week. So if this FPV thing is true, it could be. Perhaps it's look, the FCC filings have gone in for this Mavic Mini thing, so that's happening. We don't know when, but that is happening. Perhaps we'll see an industrial drone, enterprise drone.
Well, yeah, but where are they going to sell them? Where are they going to sell them? Because other countries, Australia is the next country that's going to take on board the current situation in America.
Perhaps all the Five Eyes nations will. Five Eyes is a pretty tight-knit community, and that's Canada as well as UK and New Zealand, Australia, the USA. So there could be a sort of tightening of ranks there, which would be unfortunate. One thing that I find interesting is there's a lot of animosity towards DJI, isn't there, in the market? Or DJI, I don't like DJI. Because why? Because they made a product that was really successful, which started the drone thing. And I don't think it's reasonable to blame DJI for the actions of the people who buy and use their products any more than you could blame a gun owner for the murders or deaths that are attributable to their guns. It's a people problem. It's not a machinery or technology problem.
It is an interesting subject, and I think I think 80% of this is US versus China. If you actually look at what they've done as a company, let's just ignore the fact of where they're from. If you just look at them as a company. Have they done anything worse than Facebook? Have they done anything worse? No. Look, we've had Facebook who have literally raped and pillaged every piece of data potentially that we had. We've had the British scandal, we've had everything. So if you ignore the country of origin fact, they've built some of the best products in the industry. They have created a monopoly. That's a reality. Yes, they've put their competition out of business. They're a business at the end of the day. That's what I would expect them to do. And whilst we can always say you should play fair in love and war, at the end of the day, they are a corporate entity and their job is to do better than those around them. So I think what COVID has played a massive part in this in the last 12 months as well. And I think the anti-China rhetoric has just taken full control now.
I really hope that this Fat Shark digital system is good, and I think even if it's not good, it will gain some traction because I would hate to see DJI just maintain its monopoly in the digital FPV market. And even if a product, because one of the things is people say, "Oh, I'd never buy DJI; it's too expensive, and I wouldn't buy from that company." And that's what happened when the Chinese started producing little 50cc petrol motors for model aircraft. The equivalent of there's a company in America called Desert Aircraft, DA. They had an engine called the DA50. It was the 50cc engine. It was all machine, CNC machined, very expensive engine. And then China started bringing out the DL50, which was a clear knockoff, but it had castings rather than machining, and it was cheap, but it was really good and it worked. And with all these people saying, "I'd never buy this Chinese rubbish," and I'm going to buy DA. And then I noticed 12 months later, virtually all the top pilots, apart from the sponsored ones, were flying these cheap Chinese engines. Because regardless of what people say, the bottom line is how much does it cost and does it do the job? And if we're not careful, if DJI continues to own the digital FPV market and they drop their prices, they'll knock out any competition. I'm hoping that Fat Shark will come in at a lower price, and also that addressing a different sector of the market. DJI is a great system. It's the top line system. If I don't have analog, I'll fly digital, but I fly both. But the thing is, it's variable latency. It doesn't suit racing. People have raced with them, but you don't see racers flocking to the DJI system because it has the downsides exceed the good sides. You don't need a perfectly clear picture when you're racing. You just need a rough idea where the gate is, but you need to know what's happening right now, not 25 milliseconds ago. So that's where Fat Shark, I think, have targeted their product. So that's why Rotor-Rite is aligned. They've got Vanover and things. They want to get into the racing market where there's a demand for a digital system.
The nichiest of niche, the nichiest.
Yeah, the nichiest. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So Vanover will buy one, and Fat Shark will be saved.
buy one. Buy.
Well, he'll
sorry,
get one.
Sorry,
No, sorry.
buy. I don't think that's going to happen, is he? Yeah. He's going to get one. Well, I agree.
I'm one of those guys. I'll buy an inferior product if it means supporting competition in the marketplace. Yeah. So I don't care how bad the Fat Shark product is. I think it's great that it's there, and I certainly hope that there's the money there to continue its development. And
DJI have done two major mistakes here, and the number one is there isn't HDMI output, which limits it completely for racing purposes, unless you want to spend 700 quid on a remote controller you'll never use, and they haven't really catered for the racing market. They could have by now released a fixed latency mod for it, which would have suited the FPV racing community, because it doesn't need 7 kilometers.
Come on, let's be realistic. They could have sat down and they could have put the number of professional race squad pilots down on a beer mat.
Yeah.
Tell you what, let's develop this for how many people? 1, 2, 3. No, we don't need to turn the beer mat over.
I don't think they're interested in racing, because they would have started the DJI Digital Racing Series, which was only open to people using DJI gear. Because it is such a tiny market. I mean, I fly mini quads and I love it, but I race with friends at the club, but I'm not a competitive racer. Most people aren't competitive racers. Most people are like me, bald and old with a grey beard, and they just like to fly around and have a lot of fun and enjoy the experience rather than having to wait to get home and review the GoPro footage.
Well, if they said tomorrow we're going to have a race series of Phantom Ones and decided to do it with that, they would become the world's top race series in the drop of a hat. If they decided to have a Mavic race series, it would be the world's #1 drone racing series.
Think of all the airliners that would bring down. Jeez. Actually, I've got a Phantom One. I've got a Phantom One, and I'm part way through turning it into a racing drone. I put a new flight controller in it. I'm going to put some new motors
I'm sure there's a video on my channel with an Ace 32 on it. It would, with the Phantom One, it would be he's heading around the corner. Oh, and it's decided to head off into the sunset on its own. And it's
finish line is in
China.
China.
Yeah, it's no. They're in a weird position though, and it's very interesting. The whole thing is quite interesting. It's quite exciting. Hopefully, it'll work out for everyone involved. There's rumors this week, isn't there? I don't know if you saw the news, Gary, that they've cancelled their new HQ. DJI have. That was a story I saw somewhere. I don't know if that says more about the drone industry, or do you know what I mean, as a whole, or what?
Oh, that would just be sensible, wouldn't it? I mean, Bruce always goes on about water features, and Michael's mentioned in the comments that DJI did drop the price of the Phantom to squeeze 3DR, and that's exactly what they'll do. If they feel the need to, they'll do that. But I said, I can't remember where I said somewhere earlier this week, I said, well, let's start taking bets on when they leave the drone market. I reckon 2 or 3 years, and they'll be gone. And they'll carry on with cameras and robots and make other things. I'm not saying they're going to go away. I just said they might think, it's a little bit too.
I don't know. The rest of the world is still a big market outside of the Five Eyes countries. It's still a very big market. You got South America, and you got lots of Europe and things.
But I'm reliably told, but from Patrick. That's not reliable. He's been to a couple of the shows in China, and then we do interact with some of the other Chinese manufacturers, and they are a lot. There are other manufacturers out of China that are a lot bigger in China than we would think. To our eyes, it seems like DJI is the super huge player, and they must be super huge in China. But there's people that the Chinese are dropping orders for. Every police station must have a sub 1.5 meter flying wing. That's why all those flying wings came out a couple of years ago. So there's huge orders for that. Every police station must have a multi-rotor, and those orders aren't automatically going to DJI. And there's a lot of kerfuffle in the drone industry in China about DJI.
Did you see the news story about the Chinese drug deal that was busted by a drone? Live stream from a drone. A drug deal went down. The Chinese police had their drone filming it live, streaming it back. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, they could have just picked the drugs up and dropped them in a prison somewhere while they were doing it.
People keep going on about delivery drones, don't they? That's been the biggest delivery drone market for years.
Perhaps that's what we're missing. That's what we're missing. This is why everyone keeps on about delivery drones. They're talking about dropping off copious amounts of talcum powder.
Of course, yes, it's very hard to get there. Very well. Bruce has had to move house so he doesn't have to discover that.
I think the big thing may soon be tiny whoops being secreted on your person, smuggling them into the prison. That'd be uncomfortable.
But what if someone knocks a transmitter? Yeah.
Make sure the battery's unplugged.
Mark, are you going to say something? Yeah, we can't hear you.
I have a little bit of a funny story I was told by a copper.
No, we can.
So I got told a bit of a funny story by a copper in the UK. There was basically someone had done the old delivery to a prison. The drone had come back, but it ran out of battery power. So it started to auto-descend, but they took off from an old quarry. And of course, the quarry's full of water still, but so it's descending into the water, and it was going to go in. They didn't want to lose the drone, so they went out to try and get it or whatever. They got into difficulty, and they drowned. And the police were like, well, that's an easy fix.
Well, yeah.
It's like, the drone delivery's got some dangers to it. Be careful where you take off from.
Yeah, it's there's been lots of that. But then they use arrows, they use all sorts of things, and you can mitigate the drop off risk by just putting fishing wire across the it's all sorts of mitigations.
If theoretically, if I was going to do something naughty like that, all you want is a nice fixed wing, right? You could program 5 prisons in, chuck it in the air, I'll forget about it, it'll come back and it'll drop all the packets off in all the yards. And no one would know where it's been or gone.
Oh, the zip
if what I read is true, you just have to slip the prison officers £5 and they'll take it in for you anyway.
Yeah,
which is awful.
Yeah, there is also that, yes.
Or just get a tiny whoop and fly it through the bars.
Well, yeah.
My tiny whoop won't lift a kilogram of cocaine.
You don't need. Yeah, but
I've tried it. Blows it everywhere. You have a great time, but I won't lift it.
No, that's a distribution system.
They'll take SIM cards for you, though, won't it? I'll carry a few SIM cards in for them.
They would carry a few SIM cards. Miles is saying Leeds want to standardise around their own model.
And that's why DLR, they've all done that. That's why they've got their own aircraft and everything as well. They've actually got their own transmission system.
I can't keep my kids away from watching that. And all the children at school watch it 24/7, and all they ever talk about is, oh, no, they don't. That's right. They don't talk about it. Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, no, nobody talks about it all. That's what that is, isn't it? Yeah.
It's still niche. It's still, at the end of the day, even if they sell to every FPV pilot, I'm still not sure that's enough to make a business. But we're going to have to see, aren't we? Especially with the cost of the IP. And one of the things people forget is, the analog FPV market was very much built off the back of cheap, free video transmitters that were never designed for FPV. They were designed. I don't know. Go back far enough. It's CCTV and home video transmission, isn't it, Bruce? I think that's where the base of them comes from. The modules. Yes,
I built an FPV system using one of those RF modulators from a computer and a little amplifier stage connected up to a security camera that was a great boxy thing, and it worked about 300 meters of range, but it was enough to have fun with.
You could get those modules for like £2 at one point, and that's what it's all. You
can still buy the modules now, the transmitter receiver modules. In fact, I'm going to make up some more diversity receivers for the club because it's just so cheap now. I mean, the module's like $4 or $5 or something, super cheap. And even for transmitters, 200 milliwatts, it's like $5 US to build a transmitter. You just need a little switch mode regulator, which you can buy those for a couple of bucks on eBay, and you've got yourself a video transmitter.
Yeah.
I think back in 2011, me and the guy were out flying FPV. We thought we were in the middle of nowhere. We could see a house a bit away and everything. We switched on our goggles. We're flicking through channels just to make sure everything's nice and clear and find our aircraft. We come across a garage. A garage picture. We were like, what? That's someone's garage. Yeah. We can see it. It's just watching the car, just security. It's like, oh, okay, so we'll avoid that channel then and not fly near that house.
Yeah, Yeah, no, you're right. It did grow out of necessity. That's probably the wrong way of putting it. It grew organically out of stuff you got off the shelf at Maplins, didn't it, and other places like that. And then
there was no, there was no IP, there was no paying. Digital is going to have a cost. You've got Open Digital, which is being built now, and guys are working on that, and it's okay. But there's no hardware for this. The guys are having to modify Wi-Fi cards and stuff like this. So, if it's based off something industry standard, then it has a chance of becoming accessible and cheap and available to everyone. But what you now have is DJI system with their own IP, which is their in-house, and you have Fat Sharks with Divimaths, who are their paymaster. And at the end of the day, they're a company who's developed this, who's going to want their money for each chipset. Is it, what is it? Is it $50 a license? Is it 100? They want that money as part of it.
So do you think DJI's natural progression might be to say, well, we've had enough of FPV, let's license our technology, supply the components, and every man and his dog goes for it? And perhaps the who did the little one, the little transmitter without the DVR? I can't remember now, forgotten. Cadex, yeah. Perhaps the Cadex was just dipping a toe in the water there, and maybe we'll see in a few months or a year or two that they decide, well, we're getting out of it. We're going to empower other people to do this, and we'll just sit back and collect the licensing fees, and then those can be made in the USA or wherever, and we won't have this problem with the imported tech, and who knows.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked, and even this deal could even be a first step to that. Do I think Fat Shark would have worked with DJI on their own? No. But now you have, as we've said, Rotor Riot have a very close relationship with DJI. They're a direct partner in the FPV for sales.
Well, surely they'll be. We saw them chasing rockets this week, didn't we? So surely they'll be getting ready to run out the DJI FPV promotion video. Surely it's them that's already got it sat there, or they're going to go, ta-da, we were flying this every time. Look at this.
The DJI couldn't catch the rocket, but the Fat Shark did. Yes, faster.
It's a funny position they're in, because DJI have been paying their wages for quite some time. And...
Well, I wonder if DJI said, look, we're out of here in a few months, guys, make other arrangements. And that's the other arrangements they made.
Yeah. That's another option. Yeah.
But when we move out of the market completely in 2023,
I don't think, I think long term, I've not seen DJI as a drone company for two years. They are very much I wouldn't call them a camera company. I would call them an electronic, probably a consumer electronics is we're heading towards. We're going to have to call this stuff, is a drone a piece of consumer electronics? What a TV is, a camera is. I suppose we're going to have to call it. They make. They're one of the largest in the gimbal space. They're one of the largest in the drones. They are the largest in the drone space. The action camera space, they've got to be second now overnight for the manufacturers of all of the companies next to GoPro.
Is the Osmo selling that well, though?
Yeah, but
the impression the Osmo.
Is any other company who? I suppose SJ Cam would probably
Xiaomi?
be number two, or
certainly in the. But there's also like the domestic market is huge for things like Xiaomi. They're a major supplier. I think their sales would eclipse DJI's immensely. So I don't know where DJI go, because they're not a Xiaomi. They don't have the range of products. They tend to be specializing in camera, and everything is really around cameras. It's a reason to have a camera. It's a gimbal, it's a drone, it's a whatever. So maybe they're going to spend more time getting more into the camera market. But then again, GoPro is a pretty formidable opponent, especially they just keep rolling out products that everyone likes, despite how poorly they sometimes perform. They created the market and they own it, let's put it that way. And the Osmo had a number of drawbacks compared to, I was looking at getting an Osmo, but when I compared the two, I thought, no, I'd get a GoPro, because the Osmo just not quite there,
That was, I think I said that in my review. It's just not quite the same. And it is interesting you mentioned GoPro. I don't know if you saw the news this week, and it was a bit misleading what they wrote, actually, which was about they've got more subscribers. The new GoPro has helped them get more subscribers than they've ever had, and things are looking great. But they're not subscribers because you've given it away. So they're not paying customers. They're subscribers to a service you've given away for free. But they've seen something, I think, was it a 280% increase in subscribers, and it looks great on the bottom line, but that's they'll give you the camera $100 cheaper if you take a 12-month subscription for free. Now, I don't know about you or me, but that's a deal you're not going to turn down, is it?
And the thing is that it's that free trial offer, at the end of the 12 months, it renews automatically, and before you know it, you're a paid up subscriber. It's like they do with, what is it? Netflix does it for 30 days, and Amazon. It's a traditional marketing ploy. So I think that's kind of weak. But also, if I was going to buy a GoPro, I'd probably buy into it anyway, because it's such a damn expensive piece of kit. And that program includes replacement insurance with it.
Yeah, it does, and it's a good deal. If you look at it like that, it's a real good deal. Actually, it was better than I thought. Especially if you're flying it on a quad. At the end of the day, if you're going to smash it up, it's not a bad deal. But we've said GoPro have struggled for years, but at the end of the day, they are extremely successful in their industry. They are the market leader. They do make the best products. There's no question, but it comes at a price.
Yeah, because there are so many other competing brands like SJ Cam and RunCam and the one you reviewed a while ago, the little camera. They're all there. They're all there, but they just do not equal the GoPro. They're always missing something. So GoPro's got the package together, and they're also leading. Everyone else is playing catch up, because like with this now, the Hyper Smooth, no one's got that except GoPro.
I see clones of the RoboMaster popping up now in different places. So DJI has done. Again, I'm not quite sure how big they are with the rovers in China. They may be a lot bigger than we think. Because I wanted to ask you, so I've seen that clone, and that immediately made me think: have you managed to get hold of one of the education editions yet, Ian?
I won't even reply to my emails.
There we are then.
What? If he emailed me, I wouldn't reply either.
Even through the contacts I have, I can't even get. It's like it's a completely separate entity off the side, nothing to do with us. I don't even know if it's been made officially. I've seen one person do a review of it in German, I think it was. Now, which was this one you were on about, Gary? This was the
education version of the RoboMaster.
Yeah, no, what's the other one you said you'd seen? Another make?
No, I've seen some clones. I've seen some clones of it now. So they don't seem to be. I don't know. They don't seem to be making the inroads in there as fast as I thought they would, or I thought they would just dominate the scene, because Lego sort of kicked an own goal with the new education version of I can't remember what it's called, but it's really not as good as the EV3 was.
No.
In the classroom situation.
But there's been a lot of these products. If we look back, we got the Cosmo, which was one of the early ones. You've had all of these ones that were available in the Apple Store, all block-based programming again, and none of them have been very successful. They've all had educational purposes. They could all do stuff, but none of them have really been able to make it work. So I do wonder what DJI's goal was with this one.
And is that price? Because they're not cheap. And if you got a classroom, how many do you need? I mean,
two to one you're supposed to have.
We're not all rich South African schools.
Yeah, exactly. No. Well, we've got one EV3, and you're supposed to have one for every two children. So it's they're expensive things, and they have to be bulletproof.
So you want the RoboMaster from China with 3 wheels.
The RoboMaster, and the RoboMaster has been a big disappointment. It's a good bit of kit, but it's so hamstringed, it's ridiculous.
What do you mean by that?
You can't do anything outside of the walled garden at all. So you can make the block-based programming. You can do some very basic instructions via what's it called? Python. You could do some very basic Python stuff, but they limited it. It wasn't compatible with the SDK. It's basically not compatible with external hardware. So other than something for your kids, and it can do very similar to what the Cosmo could do, but it could do a bit of extra stuff. But the new one was fully open doors. They allowed you to do a lot more stuff. So it's a good bit of kit, but what's restricted it is, other than what they allow you to do, you're stuffed. You've got to rip the controller out of it and build something yourself.
So you can't even upgrade it to a centerfire?
No.
No, no problem.
Well, it's interesting. They see China seems to be keeping their robot IP a little bit closer to its chest.
Make sure if you're going to see 5,000 of them wandering down the street, it's got some cool little things, but people do look at it and go, "What the hell is that?" I drove it up and down my street shouting, "COVID's coming, get in your houses!" at one point, just for a bit of a laugh. Firing
and
beads.
Thousands died in the stampede.
The sheep went mad. The sheep hated it.
Yeah.
You can do stuff like that with it, which is quite fun. Don't get me wrong, but from a program, if you can do more with an Arduino. That's a fair comment to make. An Arduino can do 10 times more than the RoboMaster can because of the limits DJI have imposed on it.
But they have.
Well, couldn't you scratch build one anyway as part of the technology learning process? Wouldn't it be?
Yeah.
Well, I still think it was a good product. I think my kids love it. My kids absolutely love it. I was going to buy a second one for each, so they could do the battling.
You bought it for them, didn't you? You didn't buy it for yourself, did you?
Yes.
You bought it for the children.
Children.
Yeah, that's what you bought it for, wasn't it? Yeah.
When he found when he found it had no rippable USB port, he gave it to the kids.
He gave it. No, and it does some cool stuff, but
doesn't burn.
It doesn't burn. But it soon hits the walls, and you soon think, I could just do so much more with this. I'd love to be able to interface external sensors. I'd love to be able to have it patrol my living room when I'm not there and upload the footage online so I can keep an eye on it. They're talking about Amazon making drones. You don't need a drone.
Yeah.
I got a RoboMaster. The RoboMaster.
A drone can't carry a knife. This would be better.
Cutting cakes. Cutting the sandwiches,
on the floor.
The crust of the sandwiches.
It's got a cannon on board. It's got a cannon. It does.
Yeah, but you can't upgrade it to a centerfire cartridge. What good is that?
No. There's a lot of options though you could do, which is a shame because it would be cool if you could interface it with Alexa and all of this stuff and tell it.
Where's the aftermarket then? With the Phantom, that we brought out all these things to get around the geofencing, and there's a huge aftermarket for Phantom. Where's the aftermarket for RoboMaster?
It just hasn't happened, and I just think the volumes have been so low. Now, someone has hacked it. Someone has found a way of opening up the SDK, and I do mean to have a look at it. It's something I haven't got around to doing yet, but it's still fairly limited. But it could have been so much. It could have been RoboMaster patrol the living room. And it could have been looking around. You don't need a drone. Amazon are trying to sell us a drone for what? $200? They're saying this magical drone is going to be. That's going to patrol your house when you're out.
And every time you come home, it'll be stuck down the back of the sofa.
Yeah.
Smoke pouring out from the stalled motors. It'll be terrible. But hey, what about that NASA drone? It's February. It's going to be landing. Yes. How far do we reckon that'll get?
Well, it'll burn up about after the.
It's only going to go like 50 meters anyway. No, it's not going to be roaming the whole planet. It's some ridiculously short distance.
But then it does another hop and another hop. But no GPS. How's it going to find its way back? Is it going to find its way back? It's just got to fly out of range and return to China. They should buy a DJI.
Vision system. It's got VPS. Visual positioning system. It looks for a blue dot.
You think Skydio had a role in that, perhaps?
Well, aren't they saying that the car is halfway? Did they say? The car is not? Is it halfway to Mars or heading around that way at the moment from Tesla?
Oh, is it?
Yeah, no. There was a thing about it this week. They've estimated where it is.
Looking for a recharge station.
It's really close. Yeah, it's either shot past or it's really close to Mars at the minute.
Yeah, they said it's going to swing past Mars at any moment.
That was a tremendous stunt, isn't it? Because we're talking about it now, 2 or 3 years later.
It's the greatest stunt in humanity. It's the biggest thing since Dr. No or James Bond. This isn't. He sent his own car on his own rocket to space. Did you see the words he put on the boards? Did you see what he wrote on the PCBs? Made on Earth by humans was printed on all of the boards that went up.
That could come back to haunt us. But did they miss a golden opportunity? I would love, I think I've mentioned this before, if they had a camera that was able to look at what space does to the materials that cars are made of, so that when we finally take our cars into space, we can use better materials, because when those flying cars get too high, the tires will perish and all that sort of stuff. It's be fantastic, a bit of scientific information coming back. Was it just a publicity stunt, or did they also use it as a method of information gathering?
Well, it was what he fired his own car, because it was his own. It was the first, wasn't it? If I remember, it was his own one into space on his own rocket, and then landed 2 of the boosters back on Earth.
Yeah,
it was a really big.
Yeah,
I'm the man, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, the South African space program's going very, very well, and the Americans
have they got a taller ladder? Did they buy a longer ladder?
When Elon went to do this, when he put his car on top of the Falcon Heavy, he said typically all they do is they put a big concrete block on top of these rockets to prove what they can carry. And he was very much, no. This is not going to be anything like that. I'm not putting that in space. I'm putting something different. I want to show. It was basically, this is what I can do. Let's do it with some style.
Yeah.
Very much, either it'll make it or it won't. If it makes it, awesome. If it doesn't, hell.
Could have used a ladder, then we'd all be better off.
Yeah, he's made a very, Richard's made a very good point in the comments that the robot vacuum cleaners are great, and they would be great for being a house patrolling robot. And they're getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, aren't they? Yeah. They're getting down to, you'd never build a rover like that for the
not for 80 quid. You can pick them up at like 80 quid now.
It's not a real Roomba.
Have wheeling coders. It knows where it is. It knows where it's gone. It can map out the area. The logic here is, why do we want a flying aircraft? Can it get upstairs? No. Do burglars carry ladders with them? Generally not. Put one upstairs, put one downstairs. It's not difficult.
And your house is hoovered while it does it. What more do you want?
You could make a Dalek shell to get the camera a bit higher. You could have a Dalek, couldn't you? And then put it on top of your room. That would be cool.
Yeah, someone breaks in, and then the Dalek just comes round, and the first
Dalek
thing is exterminate.
And it can unblock your sink at the same time because they've got those plungers,
See, quick, nobody's watching, so we can write this idea down. And this is it. Within this time next year, we'll be millionaires.
The next stage is, if you take a step back. It's not actually a crazy idea that Hoover becomes a security guard. So take a step back. Airport security, industrial security, they're going to have these robots that travel around, these buildings, and these are already out there. Why would you not have it do cleaning at the same time?
Robocop.
Well, this was all pioneered in Red. This was all pioneered in Red Dwarf. Go back far. Remember, Red Dwarf was all about the little scuttles, the little scuttles that ran around. This has been imaged in the past. There's some reasons why these programs did this. All this flying stuff, it's too bloody complicated. Stick it on the deck, skate around.
Well, simple's always best, isn't it? And that's what Bruce says anyway.
That's why Elon Musk turned around and says, would you want flying cars in LA, or do you go down and under? Is it not better to tunnel than go through a tunnel under LA and have all these flying drones falling out the sky? He says, which one do you want? What's better? What's safer for your car?
There's a fine line between genius and insanity, isn't there? And I think he sits on it, and quite often he is a bit to the insane side.
Yeah, his crazy ideas is, let's dig a big hole in the ground. Why? Let's see what happens. But there's a great interview with him on that, and he just said, well, we dug a hole first. They said to him, how do you get planning permission to dig a tunnel? He said, you don't. You get planning permission to dig a hole. He said, what happens then? Once you've dug the hole, you start digging the tunnel.
He's never dealt with the UK council, has he?
No.
But I love the way he invented the Hyperloop and then donated the patent to the general public domain, but it was an invalid patent because it was based on prior art, which was exactly the same thing. So he didn't invent anything. He just revived a patent from the 1920s and called it his own, and then said, "I'm going to donate this to the." No, he reinvents a lot of stuff. Electric vehicles were some of the very first vehicles ever created. He just looks at old ideas and thinks, can we make that modern?
There's another big company that's done that over the years and made a very successful business from it, and that's Apple. If you look at how very little Apple have invented, but what they've done.
And Vertiport South Africa.
Well,
That's
we're leading the way. We're leading. We've rolled out. We've started. Just no one's landing yet.
Just scroll back to Elon. Just scroll back to Elon again, just for a second. Think of Starlink, what he's about to give the world with Starlink.
Radiation poisoning.
No stars. You can see
Incinerator store.
All those satellites and talks down. So everyone's going to be able to get high-speed internet. It won't matter where you are in the world.
Well, actually, I'm looking forward to every Apple store burning down now because they've announced 5G. So it's inevitable that every Apple store is going to spontaneously combust in the next 3 months because they've announced 5G.
Because the employees are dying of COVID and their cigarettes are falling on the floor.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah, that's it.
It's going to be a link.
The Starlink thing will provide all manner of regulatory issues there. Here, they're desperate to get streaming TV services on your TV license. And of course, nobody, because the TV license is a thing of the past here. It's not a thing of the past, but nobody's paying it because people really aren't watching terrestrial TV anymore. If you can circumvent all the regulatory surface, just imagine all the authorities you're circumventing beaming down from space. It's just it's nuts, and it gets rid of the whole HAPS market's gone in an instant as well. You know, the high altitude persistent systems, they're not needed. All the people kinetics that are developing them, they're not needed in an instant.
Yeah. The thing though is that you've got to have a ground station, and so there's still ability for people to step in and say you can't do this unless you pay us a lot of money, or you can't initiate the uplink because you're operating from our country.
Okay.
There's going to be nothing to stop someone, and this is going to happen no matter what. I think someone could buy a unit from America, and then you'll be able to take it, bring it to whatever country you wanted to. You set the box up, you just turn it on, and it connects to Elon's network. You know, all it needs is the uplink. The downlink can be anywhere across that satellite network. So you could be in South Africa, and you could be downlinking in London. It won't. You know, it won't matter.
Sealand.
Pardon?
Was it Sealand or SeaWorld? That oil rig platform that declared independence in the North Sea somewhere, or where it was.
Because at the minute they're doing a massive push on all the downlinks, so they're connecting to all the major servers they can across the USA, and they're just dropping this system straight on top of those server buildings. Your link's going to be bonkers. It's, you know, the world's going to get massively smaller. And he's the only network that's going to do it to begin with, already helping out in America. All these companies that, like you say, they're going to do all this. Oh, we're going to have a plane. It's going to soar for 30 hours, and it's going to soar, and it's going to go on high-speed internet. You just wasted millions of dollars. You all have, sadly.
No. Yeah. I was just going to say, I'm just looking on a popular drone news channel, Gary.
Yeah.
So it's not SUAS News then?
No, it's not that then. Yeah, popular one. Yeah.
No. I'm just where you can find out all the latest information about Blue UAS as well. I should add, actually. There's a tab for it on the top of the website.
I'll tell you what. Whoever the chap was that bought that domain 12 years ago and thought to make it SUAS was thinking ahead there. Thinking ahead. Yeah. And I'm going to say it again, and made the S small, even though it was big at the time, and now everyone's made it small. That's my only contribution to the industry, a small S. That's it. That's what I've done. That is it, a small S. That is what I've done.
And I remembered seeing a story which was about this it sounds like someone's reinvented the AC1000 MP, but it's the E1000 MP.
Yes. The gun, the English gun,
portable English gun. And I saw this on the thing yesterday, and I was thinking, is this more snake oil bullshit, or is this actually something?
Well, it's supposed to be. It's supposed to work. I mean, who are we to? I thought the snake oil story of the week was the HAPS LTE phone call. I'm pretty certain that's been done before, and I think it was Air Environment did it with the Puma. So I think that was a bit snake oily, saying that the HAPS, the Air Environment. Well, actually, it was Air Environment HAPS as well, isn't it? Was the first to do it. But yeah, the gun thing, yes, it caused a little bit of attention around the world.
Why do they always look like guns?
Well, yes. What
do
you have? The pandas or something? Or
no,
it could be any shape you like, can't they? So yeah.
It could, it could look like a, oh my God, there's a drone. The land. That looks like that. I want the Star Trek one. I want the Star Trek. You want to be able to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Why have they made it look like a gun? It's not shooting anyone. It's not shooting the drone. My remote controller on my drone doesn't look like a gun. Why?
Maybe it should.
Why does these things need to look like weapons when they're not weapons?
It's marketing.
It's a device.
It's marketing. It's the sizzle, not the steak. It's just the sizzle. That's why people buy. They buy because, that's cool.
And that's an RF disrupting device as well. So it's basically illegal to pull the trigger on the thing, wherever you are. There's nowhere in the world where you are allowed. And I still don't think anyone has been given a license to just pull the trigger on any of those RF devices, because
it's very handy if you're flying a drone in an RF anechoic chamber. You can get those
like we all do on a weekly basis. We pop down to the local chamber and put 20 minutes on each pack. Just to make sure.
So those are RF disrupting guns, because all they do is swamp the frequencies. We know how they work, kind of thing. You do know that you can just do some fancy bits and bobs and they don't matter anymore. All those jamming systems are, if you want to know how to avoid stuff, all the jamming stuff, you can just circumvent it if you really want to. If you want to avoid it, you can do it. Typical DJI fly is not going to know how to do it, but I suspect the 3 people here, or the 4 of us, very quickly, you could just sit down and go, well, that's how I would do it. That's how I would do it. We would all could.
These things are designed to deal with off-the-shelf products, to deal with what's there, and at the end of the day, what the big issue is: A, it's illegal to swamp RF. B, it's illegal to swamp the RF they really need to do, which is L1, which is really going to cause a lot of problems for a lot of people, including that aircraft that's probably overhead.
Or 30 miles away.
Or 30 miles away, yeah. So, at the end of the day, I just don't get why it has to look like a gun. It annoys me.
Well, Andrew's very.
Put Andrew Dibbins' comment up. Put Andrew Dibbins'
it's very
comment. You can put that up.
Yeah. It's
in controller should look like a fire extinguisher. Hold on.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Very much.
So.
Oh, it's the new Futaba BFC.
It's the new food. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about this. My favorite safety tool.
Should we lay
it's armed. It's armed. The pin's out.
I was just going to say, is that empty?
Oh no, this is full. Oh no, she's full. No, she's
full.
Throw
the pin.
And this week, he destroys his microphone.
No, looking at the gauge on the side. Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Oh, come on, place your bets. How long till he accidentally fires a fire extinguisher? It can't be long. Oh.
I don't carry 2 for no reason, though.
One for the LiPo, one for the USB port.
How long is this one? This one's got a gauge on the bottom. That one, which I didn't know was there. I knocked it over the other day. I went, oh, look at that. There's a gauge under there. Yeah, this one's cool as
Let's
well.
have fire extinguishers. I didn't think you were allowed to make it. I thought they all had to be silver with a label now. I thought red was.
Oh, these are old. These are old. These I've had for probably 20 years.
Are they dry powder or
dry powder?
BFC?
I had 3. I set one of them off accidentally in the back of a van one day.
I'm surprised.
It came as a shock to me. It did come as a shock.
It was one of those situations where the door wouldn't close at the back. So what do? You don't look at what's stopping it. You just push it harder. That's the inevitable. So it's fucks. And once I heard, and that's when I stood outside going, "That's a funny sound." And then I stood there for a second and thought, "What would make that sort of sound?" And then the realization of what happened hit me, and then I opened the door and it was like a snooker cue factory, or what are the chalk factory. It was everywhere,
and that's where your Roomba comes in, eh?
Yeah. But they don't go much, do they? The powder, you can't feel the powder though. You'd think you'd.
No,
it's pressurized.
No, they don't.
You've got to be careful if you're using them in a vehicle, apparently, because if you leave them in the same orientation, it all compacts in the bottom. The powder compacts down, so you've got to shake them up from time to time to stop them doing that. Or when you pull the trigger, they just go. Psst.
Do you know these are literally 20 years old? So,
what are they using for propellant? Can't use fluorocarbons for propellants. What are they using? Butane?
I don't know, but it expired in 2012. This one expired in 2012. Let's just have a look at this one.
I actually dropped a powder one in the back of Ben's car in Tetradrones. So it just caught the back and it like went up in the car. Oh my God.
Right. This is the later model that expired in 2010. And then that one expired in 2012. They've got to be good still, surely.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean, why would you buy another one? I mean, they're perfectly good. You haven't fired them. Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
Manufactured in 2005, that one.
If they've still got the green pressure, they're fine. As long as on the inside, if it's pressuring that, it'll be fine.
I'm risking my whole workshop on these two fire extinguishers. I think I better order one, don't you?
Yeah, well, you did say earlier you were stuck for buying stuff, so
yes, So, would you buy fire extinguishers?
Fire Extinguisher World.com.
It's time for my Crocodile Dundee moment. You call that an extinguisher?
Oh bloody hell! Don't make me go. But that might have been serviced this year. Well, I can tell you that much.
These haven't been serviced.
Keep my service every year. After some.
I'll stick with CO2.
That's what I need to get is a CO2 probably. Fire extinguishers.
Yeah, not suitable gas.
CO2. It just makes the world warmer every time you use it. But no, they're good. At least you're outside in the wind.
Just warm the world until it matches the heat of the fire.
Yeah.
And then you don't know that you don't.
We ain't interested in global warming.
I call it unsequestering.
Unsequestering, yes, that's the big thing at the moment, isn't it? And with just dropping back to what was the sort of things we're supposed to be talking about, I see there's more GPS jamming trials in Scotland, in a lovely area of Scotland this week. And
you were just telling us we couldn't jam L1; it's too dangerous.
Well, if the military can, and but that's going out to 90 miles. I see on their little prediction. That's a hell of a lot of sky.
It's a lot of area in it, yeah.
Yeah, it's a heck of a lot. But I think you'd be unlucky to get caught out with it because it is in the bumpy mountains. So it's not going to get too far, perhaps. And then
tourists and backpackers will end up in streams and lakes and things unexpectedly.
Did you see also in Scotland? That means you made me think one of those. I'm going to get the name wrong. One of those autonomous wave glider, like surfboards with solar panels washed up, and the whole world was it's the spies, it's the Russians, it's the whatever. It's And funnily enough, it did have an experimental ADSB receiver on it for receiving ADSB mid big ocean and sending it back via its satellite link. But yeah, it's 4 antennas on.
It is going to be interesting to see where this Elon Musk, this Skylink goes, because it could, for drones and everything, it's going to open up a lot of possibilities, isn't it?
A lot of pushback from the scientific community, though, with the effect it's having on sky observations and that. Well, I don't know, and they reckon he's going to put curtains on them, a little shade, but I gather that's not being very effective. So they've got to have to trade off here. Do we want to be able to still see the world outside our own, or do we want ubiquitous internet?
But we're already solving the internet problem on the ground anyway. As time.
We're not.
That's the point of it. The point is, there are massive swathes in America that can't get the internet. They get like 1 megabyte if you're lucky, up or down. And the idea is this can solve it all, but all the problems around the reflection and everything is now putting shades onto them, so they won't show up so easily in all the photographs. But they'll soon come up with an AI program that's not going to work right to eliminate them anyway.
Yeah, but it still stops a lot of casual, it stops long exposure. They were saying for the long exposure, it causes them absolute havoc, doesn't it? Because it just puts streaks along the sky. That's the problem.
Yeah, no, there's got to be other technologies. I mean, why can't one of the major search engine people use balloons?
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, is already working in East Africa and Central America. So that is okay. It might be a technology that's not going to last a super long time, but they've done a lot of work with that, and they would have learned a lot of stuff about stuff with that that they could move on to other platforms. But yeah, I mean, how many of these Starlink chains could be up there before they even start interfering with each other, as well as blackening the sky?
Well, they've already they launch about 60 a time. I think there's about 800 up there now. They've already deployed them in all the fire areas they've been having problems with. So they had some big fires, haven't they, recently? And they deployed them, some units, and went, look, here you go. And those are already being put to use, and they're reporting less than 100 milliseconds delay, and you're getting 80 to 90 meg. That's not bad.
So they're pretty low Earth orbit, which means they're going to decay over time. So you got to wonder how often they're going to have to replenish them.
Yeah.
But the other issue is that's fine today, but wait till you get 100,000 people pulling data across them, and that's it's.
Well, that's why they're connecting to every ground internet service point they can. So they're connecting to all the data centers. That's the plan. So if you're connected to the main backbone of the internet, it won't affect it that badly. But the idea is to give it to people that just struggle with the internet across America and across the world.
Do you remember when you could buy the internet on a CD-ROM?
Well, the internet, the internet's available in a box. I mean, you've seen it. It's available in a box.
Jen, this is the internet.
There's another obscure reference.
Come back next week for the updated version.
Yeah, I got that one. All right, I think we are definitely beginning to waffle nonsense here. Was there any other stories? Oh, hello, is Hearlink. Tell us about your Hearlink.
So, do any of you guys know the Hearlink guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So, got a request. I want one that's an iPad mini size screen. This screen, it's not big enough. I want the same features. I want to do the same stuff. I'd like a HDMI out, but I want a decent screen.
And non-reflective.
Yeah, I want a decent. The screen's nice. Don't get me wrong. I love it, but I want this at decent size. I was talking to Ben at Tetra Drones. What we really want, we want this. If it costs £500 more, I don't give a rat's. Just give it to me in a decent size. You know what I mean?
I have a Fresnel lens I can send you.
Yeah. You're unlikely to see a larger version anytime soon. There are some reasons for that. There are other products out there, to be fair. There are... it's wrong of me to say CUAV have manufactured it because they haven't, but they've just taken on the new H16 by another Chinese company. But the software, you're into unknown territory on the software on that. Hearlink's taken 2 years to get to where it is today in the sense of the software. I was involved in the early testing of the software. I helped put the wiki together. I helped with a lot of the documentation, and it's getting there. It's really come on leaps and bounds. It still has some stuff people want changed and evolved and improved, and I know Sid's looking at that in the background. Phil's taken on board with Kelly, has been doing Solex as well, and they've been doing some fantastic work. Whether we're going to see more hardware anytime soon, I think it's unlikely. I don't know. Don't hold me to that. But what there is coming, and this might interest you, Mark, more than anything, is a ground-based receiver module. Okay, so like the ear end module you have, there will be a ground-based module coming with HDMI output, which you could potentially build your own unit.
That's interesting, but really, when you're out in the field, this is too small.
Yeah.
Just if this was bigger, me and Ben at Touch Drones were going, what we really want is just this, all the features with a nice HDMI out, just this, but with a nice big screen in the middle.
I think I have to be careful what I say, but word it right. The reasons, I think, if you take Heerling, it's a very low volume product in the sense of if we talk about FPV being low, everything else. Now they partnered with a manufacturer who makes tablets and stuff to get the device to market, and I think there were some compromises based on that in the sense of screen size, tablet, stuff like that. I agree. It would be good to have a bigger screen. I'd love to see a bigger screen, and I think the H16. Let me just check what it's called. CUAV. Funny enough, I've been on CUAV's website all day because my overview of the Nora is going out probably tomorrow because I stopped finishing it today. But CUAV have just taken on a controller. Now it isn't manufactured by them. They've gone into partnership, as I understand it.
Sorry, no one is paying attention to what you're saying.
No, I know, no one is.
Just wind him up, send him off. There he goes. Where he stops, nobody knows.
I can't even find what it's called.
Hello there. Now, Louis, you still in Brazil?
Yeah.
And how's it going?
The bureaucracy is on par with the New Zealand's bureaucracy. So let's see how it goes here.
Have you had a face waxing? You're looking pretty clean shaven there.
Yeah, come on. Today, for the first time, I managed to go to the beach. Half an hour.
You went to the beach?
Easy. Steady.
It's the beach that does the waxing. She's very good.
So it sounded like.
And Andrew's mentioning the new H7 Matic H7s. Yes, we've seen those, and they seem to do what they say on the tin. And UXV controllers up to 10 inches, according to UXV Technologies. So maybe they can come and tell us about those one day. UXV Technologies. That's fantastic algorithm to pick up. Talking about display sizes, as someone arrives with displays, that's amazing.
I'm going to have to go now because we all look too small. And I've got other things to do. So I will see you all next week, gentlemen.
All right. Yeah, we'll go. Look after yourself, mate. Yeah, you're late. You must be on the wrong time zone, Louis, because you've been to the beach.
I had to go to dinner, and as I went that half an hour just to get my feet wet, so my schedule got a little bit distracted.
Nothing wrong with that. And have you managed to get many flights done that you want to get done over there?
Have you?
Have you managed to fly much?
No. Let's just say my drones are having some nice holidays on Brazilian customs departments. That's why I was saying that bureaucracy can be as effective here as it is in New Zealand.
Anywhere in the world. So then, well, no, we'd probably better not talk about it just in case. We don't want to try to hamper your job anymore, just in case somebody from there sees it. But what I was going to say, because we were just actually wrapping up, Louis.
I imagine so.
Yeah. So, has anyone else seen anything else or any news you want to see? I'll have a look for that. The UXV, I'll look for that press release. I'm not sure if I posted it or not. Anything anyone else has seen?
I was just surprised because I got an update from Parrot. Their flight controller, their ANAFI, and their app for the phone, so their ground control station. And there's also updates for the drones, and a few interesting features on the settings. So, and something that is not very usual to see, which is quite a few options for the return to home, and smart ones, I believe. So now you can have 3 options for the return to home: return to pilot, return to takeoff, and a custom option. And you define the behavior of the drone when it does the return to home. Either it lands, like we are used to see, or it can hover at the height that you say so. So quite interesting features on this return to home. There are a few others. Well, I was reading the list of newer stuff, and it's quite interesting. There's a very interesting feature that now they can encrypt the data cards.
Yes.
So, and there's a feature that I wasn't expecting so soon, and you might have already heard about the French system to remote ID.
Yes.
Yes, you have an option on the menu: enable remote ID according to French law.
There we go.
That's the one from the French.
And that was the Wi-Fi standard.
They're a French company. They're a French company.
But that was the Wi-Fi based standard, wasn't it? At the end of the day.
Yeah, it's the Wi-Fi one.
Yeah, not the groovy one, the flashing Morse code lights one.
No.
I would love
to see that one. I would love to see that one. No, it's I believe you've seen, because on it was heavily discussed and is being advertised, because there's an open source project for the French remote ID led by my good friend Pierre Cansir. He's also part of the Autopilot team, but he developed this on the side. So it's nice to see. So at least French drones do comply with French remote ID regulations. Let's see.
Interesting to see if that then rolls out, because that's there. So, well, let's everyone do that. But what a pain it will be if we end up with 4 or 5. Well, it can't happen, can it? Because then that makes a mockery of the remote ID standard if we have 4 or 5 different ways of doing it around the world. So it'd be interesting. Maybe the French will win.
Come on, you have different Wi-Fi bands according to the countries. You have different Wi-Fi power levels according to the countries. Why not different Wi-Fi standards according to the countries? Come on, this feature is enabled on a French drone and is supposed to be used only in France. You have an option on the menu on the ground control station to enable, disable. So it is user choice. You don't have to. So, as much as I would like to admit, I don't see this remote ID system is as invasive as some of the other options we've seen around.
Yeah, it's definitely all coming to a head now, though. All around the world, it's definitely coming to a head.
like it or not, we're going to have it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, for sure.
The only thing that's a niggle about the remote ID, the only thing that's a niggle for me, is it has to tell you where the pilot is.
Yeah.
To me, that's the line that shouldn't be crossed, and that's my only niggle with remote ID.
It should have thought about that some more.
let me check here.
I find that as the horrendous bit. Other than that, I don't really have a problem with it. Anyone that wants to fly illegally is just not going to put it on a drone anyway. So, and they haven't got the police manpower to do that. What you do, send 10 people out to look for someone that's flying a drone where you don't know where they are. It's just, they haven't got the manpower. You can't even do the drone registration. People don't even understand that yet. That alone, understanding what remote ID is, it's going to be hilarious.
No, you're
Come
not
on,
wrong.
and you UK guys, you cannot complain much. Just the sheer volume of cameras that you have spread around everywhere. So why are you guys trying to be anonymous? I don't want remote ID with all those cameras. I'm sure that at this moment you have at least one camera looking at you.
Oh well, yeah, that one.
I've got at least one. I think it's 4 right now.
Hang on a minute, Ian. You've not given us other views tonight. What's going on?
They're not connected. The other 3 are CCTV, probably. My own ones, in fact.
So in your own house, instead of having a robot going around watching what you're doing, you've got 3 cameras watching you in your own house.
I live in the Truman Show.
Where's the Webley?
But I'm not in my house. I am in my secret bunker, and in my secret bunker there are multiple cameras. There are
or shed.
I have concerns what you actually do, saying there's 3 CCTV cameras that are not connected to anything else other than watching you in that room. I am quite worried about what you get up to.
There is 2 cameras up there in the same place because they are on 2 different systems, because I have 2 different CCTV systems, and there's 1 down there. And then there's this
redundancy. Is that called redundancy? If one fails, you have the other one.
No, well, no. One of them is one of them is an Arlo Pro.
Yes,
yeah, it is. Yeah, but it isn't. It isn't. One of them is an Arlo Pro, which is a smart CCTV system, and that one has all sorts of clever stuff that gives notifications and stuff like that. And the other one is the traditional analog CCTV, which I originally had. And when I put the Arlo in, it's a wireless system, which I'm not 100% happy about trusting in itself. So I ended up leaving both systems running. That's the basis.
So, and by the way, is there any of those systems connected to a cloud system so you can manage all the settings?
Yeah, Arlo is, yes. Arlo is fully. Yeah.
Thank you, privacy.
Well, it's owned by Netgear, so I'm not sure where we stand. You know, we got this one. We can do this one. Like, I got this camera view. Like, I got this one. We can do this one.
I still don't understand why you have CCTV inside looking at yourself.
But it's not. Yeah, but it's when I'm not in here. The goal is for when I'm not here. That's when the goal is. So I know if someone else is.
But surely you have CCTV outside before they get inside.
I have both, but the internal one acts as an alarm system as well, because it gives me full notifications.
But don't you just have an alarm on the door?
No, I use the system as an alarm now. The CCTV system acts as an alarm because it actually has an alarm siren built in.
I'm sorry, Ian. That's a very bad system for the privacy of the burglars.
The burglars, yes. Well, this is interesting you say this, actually. Have you seen that a lot of people are starting to get sued for having the Ring-style doorbells on the front of their homes because they're breaching people's data protection?
Yes, because it's automatic.
Because they're looking out into the great world. Now, if you
I don't get that, because if it's filming you in a public place,
Yes,
that's the same as taking a photograph. Only if it timestamps you and names you is it a breach of your rights. However,
no,
not doing that, that's not a problem.
it's a different law for CCTV in the UK. Now you have to then follow the data commissioner's rules, which has to be fit for purpose. Now you can get away with it if you're not recording. Actually, if you only use it for live, you can actually get away with a lot of the stuff. But if you use it for recording and it's looking over the general street, you can actually get into quite a lot of hot water. And there's a couple of cases in the UK going through right now. Yeah, it's
So no chances of getting like that glitter bomb guy in UK.
yeah, was that the guy who posted the stuff that someone nicked off the doorstep and it went bang
Yeah.
in the car. Yeah, I saw that video. Yeah. It's no, I have two. Yeah, there are two CCTV systems. One's a traditional one is a modern one, and I ended up leaving both in place because the reality is no one system is perfect. And when you buy these things, you buy one thinking it's going to do everything you want it to do, and then you go, "Oh, but it bloody doesn't. And you end up then going, well, actually, that does that better, and that does that better. So I ended up with both.
Well, there you go. And on that note, from the CCTV channel, go on. Sorry,
sorry, Gary. But Ian, I'm sure that the resourceful
Yes.
Some Raspberry Pi Noir, some Raspberry Pi, the new high quality cameras.
Yes.
So you just have to put a bunch of Raspberry Pis.
Yeah.
There's
very good systems made for that.
Yeah, well, there's the open source software, which is
Open
Hive, or one of them. I was HIB, Open Hive or Hib or something. Yeah, there are some really good ones, but I bought the Arlo Pro.
There we are.
So where's the fun on that? You have to build it yourself. You have to make your 3D printers, do the case, the enclosures, and do all the programming. Come on, Ian, you're letting us down.
I think it's better to dig a moat and put a drawbridge in and all that sort of thing to the shed. That's better.
Yeah.
Make a moat.
I'm going to put a moat around with battery acid. Lipos, they'll go on fire. The second someone goes near the middle, it spontaneously combust.
Oh dear. Right, it's definitely time to go. Definitely time to go. Dear viewer, wherever you are in the world, I'm shutting this conversation down. No good is coming of this.
Yes, just Richard Joy's comment. That's yes, that's it. What can we say to film someone stealing the other one? Yes,
that's right.
Because the other one is wireless. Yes.
Yes, it could be stolen. Yes, you can watch it go off down the road if it's got so little power. Right, guys, thank you very much. Wherever you might be in the world have been watching, thank you, especially for the last little bit. You've done very well, and you all do deserve a medal to hang in for that. We look forward to seeing you again at 2100 GMT. I'm trying to do a little daily news thing at 1300 GMT, I think. About that, I think something like that
in the UK, but yeah,
2 o'clock. What's that? That'll be 1 o'clock.
Yeah, they're 1 o'clock. Yeah.
Gary, can I teach you how to use Google Calendar? It does that so well.
The last lesson I teach today, I end up for half an hour having to teach 2 classes. So I've come in from having taught 38 children in a single go, and I can barely drive home. My mind is so addled, and it's so. But it's the low quality that our dear viewers come to expect of this channel. Set the bar low. And
I bring that element. That's the bit I bring to the table.
Go on, Mark.
One question though, Gary. This week you've not told us where the nearest fire is. Because there's always one nearby.
We haven't, thankfully, had a big one nearby. We've had a lot of rain. So it's damped everything down and it's greening up here. So yeah, we're probably out of fire season here now. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Good.
Fingers crossed. Until next year when we're but anyway, we're ranting on again. Right, I'm stopping now. I'm not being taken down this track. Dear viewers, take care, look after yourselves. We'll speak to you tomorrow. Take care. Bye everybody for now.